I can't stands it no more. We of course have a Dynamite. And of course, what's the tradition of Dynamite? Do unnecessary multi-man tag matches to do minimal lower card storytelling. That's not even that much storytelling to begin with. But that's besides the point. What the hell we had? We had the Lucha Bros against Jurassic Express that consists of Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. In kick, bicycle kick, countered into a choke slam, some running kicks by Phoenix and Pentagon, package pile driver, got a like their drop kick into a pile driver. That should have been the finish of the match, but they dragged it on to the fact where they let a cheap win cost like this new faction of Eddie Kingston with the Butcher Blade. It's like the most makeshift stuff to make the most deepest tag team ever. Lucha Bros should have been at least one of the more popular, funnest acts because I like their shit on Impact, but here they are just jobbing out to the most ridiculous jobber fest tag team that WWE would make lose matches against the freaking New Day and Heavy Machinery every freaking week on SmackDown. It's not good enough to be on Raw. They're just it was a ballistic match. I had like the two Blood Brothers coming around like losing like absolute losing their heads over their loss against the Jurassic Express. Eddie Kingston was struggling to keep them together with somehow the Butcher and Blade. It just felt so forceful to bring some semblance of we used to be in the Indies. We used to be in the Indies. Shake your brother's hand. I wish I was just more emotionally invested if they actually had better time and they were actually shown to be more interesting. It just makes no sense. So we just made sure we just had these jobbers just lose live on television to the guys that always lose to like the other better tag teams. So they just did this for no reason except to consent drama for teams that are not even that established. Like the Lucha Pros only were notable for that ladder match ahead with the Young Bucks, and the Butcher and Blade always jobbed to the Young Bucks. And Eddie Kingston just been signed because he's better off in a managerial position than a wrestling one, and he just comes around just in a jobber faction that barely had much time to establish. The Phoenix just walked off against Pentagon, and that's it. I guess the match was okay, but other than that, it just felt minimally forgettable. At least they didn't have a 8-man tag or some dumb crap like that. The main event was for the TNT Championship. And I'm about to bring some negatives, and you guys are not going to like it. And that's what I suspect because it's an opposing opinion. It's just a fair warning how constructive criticism works. It might suck, but you have to hear it, or else it's not an opinion. Or else I'm going to be like ESPN. No one wants to be ESPN anymore. Matt Hardy addresses over the AEW fans, or the 10 in attendance, over his head injury that he suffered over his it's a last man standing match against Sammy Guevara. They sold off an injury after getting tossed out of the metal beam. Sammy's out of commission, while Matt Hardy is going to be suffering at least a couple weeks of recovery for for his injury or minute concussion. I mean, it was supposed to be Sean Spears promo time, not Matt Hardy. That he said that he's expecting 100% recovery. He brings up his wife and his kid that are always there in the crowd, and it's like nice and stuff, and it's good to see Matt Hardy's live and well. Because if it was shit like that, I would just sell it to the factoid that Sammy just beat me. I was too old and I was risking too much of my body. Like something like that could have made it more compelling in how risque Matt was trying too hard and he was trying to pick too high from the apple, and he got nowhere. It could have been more compelling, and it could have just showed how much in the deep end because all Matt Hardy was doing was messing up his head, doing these dumb multi-personality stuff, and you start jobbing out to a guy who literally just said he would sexually assault Sasha Banks, and I wouldn't wish that upon anywhere. Anyway, Sasha Banks looks like Chihuahua with a weave. It just looks dumb. But that's particularly it. Next up, we had Angelico, Angelico. I think it's Angelico with Jack Evans or that jobber tag team on Dark. against the guy who literally had the second last match on the card of the last pay-per-view that's been having a high-profile feud with the former world champ, literally the only mainstream star you have. And then you have him in a squash match, going for like a couple minutes. Well, not a squash match, or else it would have been done quickly. Just it felt like a complete devalue, and it's like I don't mind if they're trying to tease over the friend. It just feels like it's in the independent character, so they're only doing this because the best friends are gay. It ends off a Superman punch, some head scissors, counters. It was a forgettable match, but Orange Cassidy picks up the win with the freshly squeezed. Then after the match, Santana and Ortiz came jumping Orange Cassidy. Best friends come and challenge them to a tag team match in a parking lot brawl next week on Dynamite. And I thought they were going to have this with all the best friends, including Orange Cassidy, against them, and Pac. It was actually them and Lucha Bros and Pac for a parking lot brawl, but then they had to change plans because same issue, same visa issue with Robert Roode and WWE. Pac has got to be stuck in England for the time being. So that was scrapped, and then they just put this stupid feud with Ortiz and Santana for no particular reason other than I'm just gonna kick your ass. Trent is a mama's boy, and I'm supposed to care about these gay jobber rejects that were jobbers on SmackDown. The guys like Mike Knox and stuff that I'm supposed to concern myself with this. There has been nothing other than Ortiz and Santana just trashing their personal belongings. And the semblance of them feuding is that they're, I guess, they're part of the inner circle. Jericho been feuding with Orange Cassidy. So it came from feuding with a group like the Elite. Like these are also guys that have major control of the company. And we just scrapped that to just have them with this forgettable jobber faction that have a lower card comedy gimmick be the most over of the two guys. Next up, we of course had the segment over who's going to be the best man. I wanted Brian Pillman Jr. to actually be part of the main of Dynamite. I find he has decent charisma. The guy is young. The guy seems to have exceeding athleticism. And I like his look that he looks nearly like his dad. I mean, so did David Benoit, but David Benoit barely even ran a match yet. And just exceedingly gifted. I went to see this guy have a couple matches on Dynamite and see how he works. So we only saw him in that one 8-man tag match with I think Jelena, Kiss, and I think that other jobber on Dark. But it was nice. Some other fat dude that looked way too fat, and of course, we had Miro Rusev. It was Rusev. Just shut up. Just let me be happy. Rusev made his appearance. It was majorly crazy, and he started looking like he just came out of his stream and just forgot he's supposed to come out for an entrance. Listen, I'm ecstatic because I like Rusev. I find he was completely underutilized with him making him go get down over Roman Reigns, Cena, and he should have been looking a bit more strong. Especially, like, at least give him one world title reign. If he wanted to, he could leave. It just felt like it was underdeveloped, and I thought they were going to do something bigger with him planned after his feud with Lashley went down. Like, sour. It was a terrible feud. But I guess nice to see him back in, like, a major player in the most metrosexual jobber. That's the most relevant part of being on Dynamite was his one-off match with Joey Jelena on Dynamite, and then he had a tag team with Jimmy Havoc before he got released. Then he just does nothing else. But the only relevance he has is Penelope Ford is hot, and he used to date a fat jobber like Joey Janela. But I don't care. It has no semblance of imagination other than Rusev's on AEW. Kip Sabian, get out the ring. His little one-off jokes a tease who would be the best man, because that's literally the only surprise we got. I don't care if he becomes tag team partners with him. I don't care if he becomes his lackey. I just want to see Miro show what he has to see what makes him different from WWE. I can care less about what Kip Sabian has with Penelope Ford, how long they've been dating, or that bullshit they had with Joey Jelena. He's just a crop top wearing jobber that loses to everybody, so I don't concern myself with that. Next up, we had, of course, it was an no holds barred tag team match again, an ODQ tag team match involving Jake Hager and Chris Jericho, like the toughest faction against a lower card bottom feeding team that has some kind of trans dude with a fat indie jobber from Cali or whatever. I think he's from New Jersey, but other than that, these are like guys that would win consistently in dark, and they come around losing to a former, having like a 20-minute match with a Bellator fighter and the first world champion of the promotion. How to buck up strong? I mean, they did win, but it came on the semblance of forearm smashes, a senton. Like, majority of the power moves were coming from Sonny Kiss, other than Jake Hager, like, lifting these two jobbers like no one's business. You should be treating Jake Hager like he wasn't like putting this seriously as a legitimate fighter since his feud with Dustin Rhodes, and not only lasted for like a month. At least that had some semblance amount of build. Like, we're supposed to take him now as this legitimate muscle for the inner circle. And he comes around getting forearm smashed, shoulder tackled, kicked in the face by a dude who got his ass taken out so much that you would think it's a Naomi wet dream. And it ended off with some counters with trash can, because of course you can't have a no DQ match without a trash can, because it's the safest weapon you can use. Uh, I've never thought there was a table outside of because the camera work was so bad, where they just now have to soften the landing because it's just out of nowhere that you just toss Jelena out stage. Uh, Walls of Jericho gets stopped. Immediate code breaker and ends off a sleeper hold STO after Jericho came with a fire extinguisher. Literally, at least somewhat the most entertaining match of the night. I just thought it was just doing too much for a tag team that obviously hasn't been that established. Except they had one vignette, and it already has Sunny Kiss already looking like a side character from Sexual Education, and it just felt like it was out of nowhere. I don't really care. I don't know why they did this other than to establish that they're part of this dumb workweight tag division that thinks 20-minute matches are enough to establish them as a good, competent tag team, and you have them like having close matches with the former world champion of the business, of the show, and they're probably gonna job out to teams like the Young Bucks or something. Like, they don't believe in squash matches. I feel like squash matches should happen, especially if you want to push top stars, newer ones, or guys that look the part. We had, of course, Jon Moxley going over his future match with, of course, the Murder Hawk, Lance Archer. Earlier in the show, Jake the Snake Roberts did have a brilliant promo with Lance trying to do some forceful way to bring some semblance of intimidation over saying everybody dies, just screaming over the top of his lungs. It just doesn't feel that condensed. It just felt like he has no promo. It was good enough to give him one of the greatest talkers out of Jake the Snake. And then we have, of course, Moxley going over son of a bitch, bloody bloody blah, and that was it. It's just a bland promo. It was just a bland promo. MJF just felt like super pissed. I liked his later segment going over everybody and freaking disrespecting the smiling girl, guy giving him a snack. And the promo that he just said, it just felt so genius. It's like, I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Why blame Scorpion and Sting if it's within their nature? I'm not even gonna touch on the dumb opening segment move with Tony Schiavone with both MJF and Jericho going over their losses at All Out. It just felt like it was a BTE skit in my opinion. I don't go over stuff that felt like it was a BTE skit. And geez, even like 2001 Nitro, I was more confident for itself. And just it was just cool, and it just showed the dynamic that Wardlow really needs MJF to survive, and it just makes us feel like someday we're just going to see a Wardlow and MJF feud that I'm at least expected for, because we're at least going to have more passionate promos come out of that. And MJF is shown to have one of the more compelling matches in most of AEW, so this is going to be cool. We also had FTR having a lot to get off their chests over the tag team division, tag team wrestling, the religion of tag team wrestling. We need tag team wrestling. What the tag team wrestling? Of course, they go over most of the tag teams that are jobbers, like the Jurassic Express SCU that we haven't even seen them wrestle against. Austin and Billy Gunn, they didn't even go touch the Young Bucks, I think. Most of the jobber tag teams they didn't have much to say about Private Party or anything else. It just felt so bland. Tully Blanchard was at least bringing some semblance of prestige to this group tag team until they started talking more trash about the comedy gimmick. Get it, shoot, work, shoot. And Jurassic Express came around about to get a confrontation until they walked out. Until a surprise attack off Dax Harwood ended up with them doused with ice, even though it's usually the cake spot they do, but no, they just share the cake. So that was underwhelming, I guess. I mean, they at least look like something out of the Midwest that would hold the tag belts, and some kind of terrible Fed from NWA. Because they know if there was no AEW, FTR would just go to NWA, or they would shut the hell up and just take WWE's money. It was forgettable, and they just have just to tell you they have it'll be Jurassic Express versus FTR next week on Dynamite, I guess, for probably a future title shot. Even though the Young Bucks beat them, so how come the Young Bucks aren't awarded a title shot? And they're kind of illustrated beef after what happened with Hangman, and they've been doing these dumb segments for a majority of the show over the Young Bucks not trying to talk on camera about their personal business, or Kenny Omega's interview trying to be a singles act now, and Hangman over his guilt what happened with Omega and the Young Bucks and costing them their title shot. I guess it brings some semblance of what's going on in the minds of these guys after what happened and the outburst of Omega, the emotions of the Young Bucks, and of course what's going on with Hangman. And it just felt so. I don't feel that compelled, to be honest. I don't. I mean, I gotta give it up to Kenny. I mean, he was supposed to be one of the bigger single stars here, and he comes around holding a belt, a tag belt, with a mismatched tag team partner for 7 months. I don't think even freaking New Japan would do that. To have like the freaking Golden Lovers like lose them in like a month, and that's already the worst name. Like Golden Shower, is that really your finishing move? And yeah, that's practically it. Next up, we have Nyla Rose that somehow still hasn't gotten a title shot against somebody that looks like Candice LeRae out of Ty Conti. I'm sorry, what now? I think it ended off a beast bomb. It was just a random squash match. I'd be like, oh, what? We have more women other than Hikaru Shida having squash matches or whatever the hell Big Swole had with Brandy and Britt Baker, and just I'd rather not go back to that. Yeah, so I guess it ended off a beast bomb. Conti made her first appearance. We will also have next week the NWA Women's Championship on the line next week on Dynamite. And I don't think they brought any detail what happened to the AAA Mega Champion, I think Mega Championship that they had with Omega. He had it like when he was facing off against Sammy Guevara, and then I guess he lost it somehow in Mexico. Conte fought her way back. She got an arm bar or something, some kind of botched arm bar. Then she lifted her up and got her for a beast bomb. Vicky Guerrero cut a promo saying that the vicious vixen are going nowhere. Nyla Rose is going to resume beating her beatings until she gets a shot against Hikaru Shida again. I don't know. It just felt so bland. Just a random squash match, and I don't like when you just do a random squash match for a woman that's supposed to be a recurring act in your show. And I don't know why. What's with the recent absence of Nyla Rose, especially in a irrelevant women's division. It's like you have Anna Jay doing nothing. You have Allie and Brandy doing nothing, even though Brandy's supposed to have this dumb faction that went nowhere. That she comes around just being the cheerleader for Dustin Rhodes. Uh, Come on, really? Of course, we had our main event being the TNT Championship, the second best match in the show, in my opinion. It was just two signature heavyweights with Dustin literally being the best in shape next to Cody in a decent match. It was actually at least some equal hand of momentum. A freaking pile driver was put into this match, like real wrestling moves until we saw Canadian Destroyer. Super kick, a big boot, a discus lariat. The match ends there. I thought the match was decent enough. I wish there would have been a bit more emotion because it's supposed to be vengeance for the Rhodes family after embarrassing them after beating Cody clean. They lift the title up, shuns off Cole Cabana after what happened on pay per view, and that was it. And they come around dragging QT Marshall and showing that the Dark Order has really destroyed the Nightmare family. Woo! Other than that, it was an average main event. I didn't mind it. It was an okay match, especially in the age of Dustin. He's been having incredibly fun matches. If you haven't seen his match with Sammy Guevara, I advise you at least to watch that stuff because it shows what he can still carry on and show in his years. He looks the best I've ever seen him, and I've been watching him since 2000 freaking two. That could tell you how much I really didn't mind Goldust back then, but that was when he wasn't good. He was just a comedy gimmick with a dumb stutter. And I gotta say, he had a pretty good match with Brody Lee. I don't know what kind of stuff they're gonna target out for Brody Lee now. I guess they're gonna continue the Rhodes family feud, the Nightmare family feud with the Dark Order, or they're gonna do something like Matt Cardona against Brody Lee or something. Whatever they have, I guess Dark Order's gonna be the technical top faction until somebody holds some like Inner Circle holds a belt. But it was nice. We also had Ricky Starks cosplaying as Darby Allin again, over to cover a shot for a dumb feud I don't care about. Darby Allin's obviously gonna win anyway, and that's particularly it. We of course have Cody, I think, trying to get a full recovery in after his embarrassing loss to Brody, and whatever the hell Kenny's gonna do. Other than that, I'm just expecting a bit better. This was an average show. I'll give it that much. Other than that, I just thought that they could have done a bit more to entice me to watch this show. Other than the only thing getting me a major pop was literally just Rusev coming back to wrestling. After you should expect whenever a wrestler says he's gonna retire, unless he's a career threatening injury, he is not really retired. He's taking a break. And if you don't understand that, that's your fault. So that's it coming for me. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you liked the review. when to try to get more on a consistent pace because I know this review is going to come out a bit late. I'm just ecstatic and I'm trying to work for stuff for the for Sunday football to start. And of course, I have a little brother's birthday to worry about tomorrow, so that's a coming for me. Thanks for watching.